So my question to all is, why is the need for green refrigeration to contain climate action, and what action can be taken for transition towards sustainable refrigeration system for climate protection? Let's start with Mr. Pankaj.
As all the speakers mentioned about, how these refrigerants, which are from CFCs to HCFCs to natural refrigerants, the two major factors which is global warming potential, ozone depletion potential. So these two have harmful effects on our stratosphere, the environment of the earth. And so the need of having the green refrigerant is obvious for climatic action, for us to live in a peaceful world in the times to come, where such disasters happening because of climate change should not happen. So the need is basically to live a peaceful life in an environment which is conducive to human. And what actionable items we need to, it is something which is in a very fast changing world of today, where consumption of energy is bound to increase because the development has to happen, and all development need energy. So if you see, the demand of energy is going to rise. The demand of I was recently as a speaker for CII Data Center Summit, and we were surprised to see the way the data centers, we are talking on a Zoom, we are talking using mobile all the time, we are using data, using artificial intelligence, which has 6 times more energy consuming than an earlier data system, because AI needs learning, and that learning is happening because of high data demand which is there. So what we can, as a conscious user, we can't fight against the demand of digital world. It is going to progress. We can't fight against the demand of comfort. We are living in today's world where the high temperature is rising, and we tell that we are a saint and we will not use air conditioner. Is not going to happen. So we in a realistic world, what I would suggest is we have to only use designs like the ma'am Roshni ma'am just said, how architecturally we design our building as a first step. Then comes the HVAC, which is a mechanical system to meet the cooling demand. But if we design our buildings in such a way that the requirement of cooling is less, the passive cooling requirements are met, the shading effects are there, daylighting is there. So it comes from design to the proper selection of equipments, and to maintain properly. As I said, leakage is one of the big issues in refrigerants. So it is I would say the action is our own inner consciousness. If we are a conscious citizen, where we take energy and environment in such a way that we behave and we act with those consciousness in mind, that could be the biggest action we can take as human being.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta, for sharing your views. Coming to Dr. Roshni, he just mentioned, Mr. Pankaj Gupta just mentioned about the building design plays a very important role. So what are your views about the need for green refrigeration for climate action and protection?
I think that just to go back a little bit, that when in the 1930s, these chemicals were found or discovered or invented, the chlorofluorocarbons were found to be, the best materials. I mean, right. We as human beings always find the solution, and then we find that is the problem, and then we find solution. So that's a cycle going on. So we found that these were excellent chemicals. We could use them for so many things without damaging. But then in 1995, there was a scientist by the name of Mario Molino who found out that he got the Nobel Prize for this. Who found out that these chemicals go up in the stratosphere and they are slowly making a hole in the ozone. So that's when we said that, oh my God, these chemicals are not so great. We need to do something about it. And then we said we'll change them to HCFCs. And even then we found that there were problems with even that, because although they are not impacting the ozone. They are affecting the global warming. They have big global warming potential. So on and so forth. A search for all this is going on. Where we come from and where I come from as an environmental architect is to say that let's look at how we can reduce the ways of living, and how we can make ourselves more simpler, more reduce, any efficiency is my solution. So if you make the building efficient, maybe we will still require air conditioning, but we can bring the load down. We can reduce it to say 1/3 of what it is. So the building itself is in such a way that most of the year it will not require any kind of refrigeration. At the time when it requires, we'll still use something that is as best as possible.
Yeah, definitely, Dr. Roshni. You have very clearly said, and we have a history about all those things. When something crops up, and then only we go for innovations. Coming to Mr. Neeraj Shukla.
Yeah, I really like the line Mr. Gupta said that, we are losing a race on the climate change, which we can win.
Right.
Okay. Still there's a change, still there's a possibility to win this race. And as Mr. Roshni also pointed out, that we first found a solution, then we found a problem, then again we are trying to find a solution to that. So coming to the topic of green refrigeration over here, though it is contributing to the 10% of the overall global emission of the earth, still it is considered significant. Though the major villain of India is the coal-based plants, which is producing 60% of the electricity of India, and which is adding to the great amount of the emission to the environment. That's a different story. But still, we have to focus on the green refrigeration over here. By introducing more of the natural refrigerant, as Carrier is doing the great work to the innovative technologies. Though CO2 has its own challenges as they work at the high pressure requirement they have to operate at the high pressure. So it is a need of the special components is there. But coming future to the R&D, effective R&D implemented, right amount of money invested, and encouragement given by the government, more solutions will come in future, which will reduce the cost to produce these components, make it more affordable to all people, all sectors, for the transport refrigeration also, and the static refrigeration also for the warehouse. And more it becomes cost effective, people will be encouraged to go for it, because major constraint is coming, it's very expensive as compared to the HFC refrigerants or HFO refrigerants. So there's always a hesitation in terms of cost. So more R&D happens in future. I think it should happen. It will be happening. Sure, the giants like Carrier working on it. More affordability, faster adoption is. Adoption is important.
Of course, Mr. Shukla. R&D is very necessary for phasing out, though phasing out is in the course of action. Mr. Pankaj Dewan, can we hear your views, please?
As we discussed ozone depleting potential and global warming potential, and my co-participant discussed that first we research and then we find problems. Actually, I would like to say here, ozone depleting potential is now protected because we already use all zero ODP, but now is the global warming potential, which is the greenhouse gases, and these refrigerants are very highly responsible as compared to one molecule of carbon dioxide. This global warming potential is 1,000 times more dangerous. So, and this innovations and research is happening, as I earlier said, those who used most. So those were the Western countries. They used most and they found the problem. Then they changed and then they again found the problem. And then they're going for the patent. So patent is a big issue for the entire world. So we are not able to use, those refrigerants are not available. So my dream would be that Indian refrigerant companies should do research. This is some kind of mixing of chemicals. What is this now? Ultra low GWP refrigerant, which I mentioned, R1 through 3, 4, Y, F and ZE. these are innovated and developed from existing chemicals only. So these development means our Indian engineers are much more intelligent and they have innovation. So some Indian industry should come along and research this in India and then do this patent in India. Then will be the real benefit we will get. Now we are following the Western countries, which they created first, they used most, and then they destroyed ODP, and then they did this global warming potential, the global warming, and now they are giving the solution. So we are basically following, but we did not damage also much because we did not use much earlier. Now in the days ahead, our demand is growing very fast. So we will be using. So this is the right time that we should do something different.
Yes, this is the right time. Thank you very much, Mr. Dewan, for sharing. Mr. Rahul Kapoor.
My views are almost in line with what they said, because there are three ways to look at it. One is how we can actually save the carbon, how we can save the ozone layer by reducing the carbon content in the atmosphere. Number one. That brings us to the point that we need more and more efficient equipment. Because byproduct of efficiency is less power consumption, and unfortunately in our part of the world, more and more power is still produced using coal, which is again not very environment friendly. So it's like two sides of the coin. By using natural refrigerant like CO2, it may have been technically made in Europe, but I guess we have seen a very clear-cut pattern here that it is bringing us the efficiency on the both sides. First, it is reducing practically the physical content of carbon by using natural refrigerant. And secondly, by making the system more efficient than the standard solutions available, we are also consuming less and less power. So it's like killing two hens with the one shot. So yes, I'm totally, there is no doubt about in our mind as an organization, as people leading this commercial refrigeration space, that more and more of CO2 is going to be seen in the Western, has already been seen in the Western part of the world. We will also see that in India, and as well as other smaller countries which cannot probably afford the technology today.
Sure. We have taken your views in a very right spirit. And you were mentioning about the cold chain also and using CO2 as a solutions. So my question is how the green refrigeration trend is taking place in cold supply chain as online commerce has also increased and goods are being transported to the long distances.
Yes, so Mr. Gopal Krishna, globally, again, some of the European companies have made this as one of their objectives, that they have now started using or replacing some of the old fleet with the fleet which is using CO2 as a technology. But we also have to be very cognizant of the fact that CO2 cannot be the right replacement of HFCs today in all the applications because of various reasons: availability, cost, efficiency, etc., etc. So we will have to take one step at a time and gradually build this up. So of course, in a country like India, you will first see most of these multinational MNCs, whether it is in the food processing or it is in the e-commerce or the food retail, which will bring in this technology first or adapt this technology first, because they will have global targets of making themselves net zero. And then slowly Indian entrepreneurs and Indian organizations will pick the cue from there and start building up. So yeah, that's how I see step-by-step approach for this whole green revolution in refrigeration to happen.
Yeah, that's a very nice point you have taken up. Mr. Pankaj, coming to you now. You were talking about the refrigerant awareness and sustainability, and green is the buzzword. So what challenges and opportunity exist in transitioning to sustainable refrigeration systems?
And I mean, you see the word transition is a very fascinating word, and a lot of talks are going on. But your question is that moving from one refrigerant to other, or
Correct.
moving from one technology to other because of that refrigerant is not a easy task to do because of major criteria of transitioning need energy financing. So in our country, definitely there are constraints in terms of first cost because we are still not living in a world of life cycle costs in our country, unfortunately, where we are evaluating replacement of our existing energy systems to new technology, energy intensive, highly energy efficient system based on life cycle cost analysis. We are still very much focused on first cost. So any transition which happens with the basis of first costs need a lot of finances, a lot of incentives in terms of financing, a lot of those criterias where shared saving models, ESCO models, and things like that. So I'm sure with the norms of ESG compliances, which is again the big corporations have to follow. These transitionings are happening, but it's slow. I would say. I mean, we can't be happy about it that we are talking more of transition. So it is happening on the ground. Ground reality is that transition has to be we reached to win this battle. We need to be moving fast in this transition, and so all these act of financing, act of life cycle cost has to be looked fast and looked efficiently. Looked experts of this this panelists, they have to. This all knowledge sharing has to be done so fast that transition happen fast. And refrigeration, as Rahul had said in Carrier, the CO2 is a natural choice, but the risks associated with that are also there. So transitioning is happening, but it has to happen fast.
Correct, Mr. Gupta. Transitioning has to be fast. A lot of R&D has to be put in, and most of the companies are taking up the issues of global warming.